Yeah, here you go. Here you go. Yeah. Okay, you want to just stand? Okay, let's do it.
You were a wonderful audience. I was not planning to stick around, but you guys were so great I couldn't leave. It was like, wow, such fun. And this really is a movie that needs to be seen with a group. They're a group of weird perverts, particularly. Thanks for coming out tonight.
So I want to start with Jeffrey Combs, who is amazing in this movie. So where did he come from? Did you know him beforehand, or? No,
I didn't. You know, we had our casting director had seen him in a play and brought him in for an audition, and he looks nothing like the way Herbert West is described in Lovecraft's story. You know, Lovecraft describes Herbert West as being a blonde, you know, kind of blue-eyed, Aryan, kind of fresh-faced kid, and Jeffrey, you know, is none of those things really. But after about 2 seconds in watching what he did with the role, it was like, this is Herbert West, you know, and so there's really no question. You know, he was cast immediately. And you know, Jeffrey is and I have worked together on. We figured out the other day, I think it was 9 movies. Wow. You know, he is. You know, it's like goes back to my days. I did theater for many years before doing films, and I would work with an ensemble of actors. And when you find somebody who you are on the same wavelength with, you really want to hang on to them. And Jeffrey and I are still working together. We just are doing a play now. Called Nevermore, where he plays Edgar Allan Poe, and something occurred to me when I was watching the movie with you guys tonight, which is that the very first screening of Re-Animator took place in San Francisco.
Ooh,
and you know, I don't remember which theater it was. It wasn't this one, I don't think, but it was. You know, we had never seen it with an audience before. And we had all, you know, it was very kind of, everyone was very nervous. And at the very end of the movie, you know, when Megan is lying there dead on the, you know, the ER, and somebody in the audience started yelling, "Use the juice!" And that's when we knew that the movie was working. So I want to thank San Francisco for getting this movie started properly. And I think it's very fitting that 25 years later, here we are again, and it was almost this time of the year that we had that screening.
Wow. Do you mind if I put this on the
podium? No. Yeah, speaking of amazing guys, check out what this guy's got right here. That is amazingly lifelike severed head. Oh my goodness. Straight out of the movie. Oh man.
So this was your first feature film.
It was.
And what got you involved in making a movie from film, and what
well, as I said,
the story?
You know, I was doing theater, and all of the actors in my theater company kept getting cast in movies. Joe Mantegna was a member of the company, and Dennis Franz, and he got cast in a Brian De Palma movie called The Fury, playing a cop, and has been playing policeman ever since. And it sort of occurred to me that maybe it would be a good idea for the Organic Theater to make a movie. And I was thinking about Bergman, who had a theater company, and every summer he would take his actors and they'd go off and make a film. And when I told the board of the theater that we wanted to do a horror movie, they were horrified, and not in a good way. And they said, you know, we really think you should be doing an art film, not a horror film. And but you know, at that point we had raised the money to do it, and so I took a leave of absence from the theater and came to LA and shot the film. And strangely enough, it was shown at the Cannes Film Festival that year, and won a Special Critics Prize, which even though it was not in competition, which I could never figure out for a long time, but it turned out that they have this prize that they give for any film that's shown at Cannes no matter whether it's in competition or not, and the critics awarded Re-Animator that prize. So it turned out it was an art movie after all.
Questions?
We'll open it up to the audience in a minute. We'll open it up now.
Okay, we got an arm over there.
Yeah.
What was your budget?
The budget was $800,000 for this film, and we shot it in 18 days.
Wow. What year was it?
We shot it in 1984, and it was released in '85. But it's funny, you know, nowadays $800,000 would could make 10 movies for that, really. You know,
On digital video.
Yeah, digitally. I mean, I think it's, you know, I was talking to Gary about that, and, you know, how movies now can be made for, you know, like
10 grand.
Yeah, what you've got in your, you know, credit card or, you know, and so forth. But, you know, back in that day, doing anything for under $1 million was considered to be very, very super low budget.
What was the budget on From Beyond?
From Beyond, I think, was about, I would guess around 3 or 4 million. So it was a bigger budget.
What was the juice?
The juice is this stuff that,
Silent.
Siloom, I think it's called, which is, you can still get it. It's like, you know, they use it, you know, like in those sticks when you have an accident and you break it up.
Raves.
Or raves, they use them, I guess. I wouldn't know about that. But anyway, you know, you mix these two chemicals together and it glows. And it was, I think I saw it in a hardware store and I thought, that's pretty cool. And you know, the thing that was nice is it looks like it's an optical effect, but it's all really happening in camera. And we found that it had a kind of a life of, it could only stay bright for like an hour or so. And then we had to, you know, so we had to have like tons of the stuff to keep filling up those syringes.
The special effects in both films are really extraordinary and hold up today, I think.
Yeah, you know, they were very simple, and they were very, you know, there's no, this would be way before CG, and also, you know, the other thing was that we did a lot of research on this movie, which I like to do in most of my films, and spent a lot of time in morgues looking at real corpses. And what occurred to me when I was doing that was that, first of all, they smell, it's the worst smell ever, which it always bothers me in zombie movies that they never sort of play up the fact how bad these things would smell. But also, the dead people did not look anything like the way that they look in the movies. You know, the movies, they always make them sort of gray and
They're brightly colored.
you know, this was, you know, we call them the rainbow corpses, because people, depending on how you die, you turn different colors. That's one of the things we learned. Got to be friends with a lot of pathologists in this movie, and you know, early on I met one, and he said, you know, how did the people die in this film? I said, the corpses? He goes, yeah. I said, well, there's a shotgun wound to the face, there's a motorcycle accident, there's a burn victim. You know, I'm giving him a list of all this. He says, come back tomorrow. So I come back the next day, and he's got a little slide projector set up and a screen and one chair. And the nurse, as she's leading me to the chair, says, I hope you have a strong stomach. And he says, and here we go, shotgun wound to the face, click, 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 burn victims, click, click, click. You know, and I realized that, you know, that pathologists love to take pictures. And I was getting woozy watching this. I'm like sinking down lower and lower in the chair. And finally I said, could you stop, please? And he says, you know, I said, could I just pick up the slides and hold them up? It was a little easier for me to deal with it. So the special effects guys on this movie were, you know, brought back all these slides and stuff for them to work with. And that, I think, was one of the reasons why I think the effects still look kind of, well, they look fresh, I guess I'd say.
Were there any effects that you wanted to do for From Beyond specifically that you weren't able to? That they weren't able to?
Well, in From Beyond, there's this whole thing in the story, we had it in some of the earlier drafts of the script, which is that when they turn on the resonator, first of all, how many here have seen From Beyond, just out of curiosity? All right, most of you.
Awesome.
So in the Lovecraft story, when at a certain point they start seeing that they're not in the laboratory anymore, they can see that they're in a weird temple of some sort, in like another dimension or something. And we really wanted to do that, and it was in some of the earlier drafts, but it was turned out to be a budgetary thing. And those, again, before CG, you had to build everything. So we weren't able to do that effect. So that was something I always wished we could do.
And tonight we're going to be watching the restored version of From Beyond. So that's really exciting. Can you tell us about that experience?
What's been cut?
Well, here's what happened. Re-Animator, as you could see from, before the movie is shown, it was released unrated. And which I always thought was incredibly brave on the part of the distributor, because they always are so worried that unless a movie's rated R, that no one's going to be able to, they won't be able to advertise it and so forth. But when we did From Beyond, the distributor said, "Now this one's got to be an R-rated movie." And when we sent the film to the MPAA, they just went crazy and said, "There's no way we're ever going to give this movie an R." And they started chopping away at it. And they took out, several minutes of footage. And the movie was released that way, and it always bothered me. And people would always, when DVDs started coming out, they said, "Are you going to do a director's cut of From Beyond?" And I said, "I really can't, because I looked for the material that had been cut, and it was lost." And so I just kind of said, it's just never going to happen. And one day, this is about 5 years ago, the From Beyond went from one studio to another, ended up at MGM, and they were going to finally release it on DVD, and they said, "We found this can of stuff here, can you come over and identify it?" It was like going to the morgue. And they had there was this little film can, and it opened up, and inside of it were all the trims that the editor had been forced to cut out by the MPAA. And I just felt like it was a miraculous thing. It was like, here they were, and we were able to restore it. We were able to put those pieces back into the movie, and with the technology we have now, the digital technology, to make it look, these are work prints. They were scratched up. They had grease pencil marks on them. They, been tape from editing tape and all this stuff that they don't use anymore. And we were able to put it in and make it smooth enough so that you really can't tell what was taken out and what was, and so forth. So it was really a wonderful experience to feel after 20 years, we were able to
see it the way it should be.
Yeah, put the movie back the way it should have been. So it was kind of cool to be working on it again after all that time.
Awesome.
And that's the version that we're going to show you tonight.
Yeah.